Atlanta, about a mile from the Battery.
Hot
Not
Atlanta.
quite, yeah, I know, and not quite time for baseball, but every time I drive by the Battery, when the Braves are playing, there are people everywhere. They walk for miles to that stadium. It's an incredible place. But look, a lot to talk about today, man. We are joined by one of the best, Jacques Doucet, WAFB Channel 9 in Baton Rouge, two-time Louisiana Sportscaster of the Year, now sports director at Channel 9. He also does a lot of documentary work, Brendan. You ought to see the one he did on Cecil the Diesel Collins.
Yep.
The short career, but it's an incredible story. But he's all over covering the LSU Tigers and the SEC. Also joined by William Billy Ray Valentine Halliday, the intern, sophomore writer for the Auburn Plainsman. Kind of get that, 20-year-olds, what are they doing? What do they call journalism? He wants to be part of your intern program, by the way.
Well, he can't handle my intern program.
Oh, I can, sir.
It's gonna be tough. It's like basic.
Yeah, basic
training.
I am Gunnery Sergeant Martin.
You
will not fail. You will not falter. You will love journalism.
Jacques is going to leave us if we don't just open this show already.
Then we're going to have Bo Carter, former PR chief for the Southwest Conference and the Big 12 office, who's now with the National Football Foundation and Baseball Writers of America. A lot to cover. SEC, get pen and paper and pencil handy because here we come.
Like and subscribe.
Jeffrey, you do a show where you ask a lot of questions.
Sidelines with Rob Brown. Talk sporty to me.
All right, man. Sidelines, Friday edition. We get going fast. Jacques, you know the drill. And Brendan, you start on this show. It's like living in the middle of I-20 or I-59. You pull out of your driveway. You live in the median. You're doing about 95. Jacques, LSU, man. I think the story, I'm curious what you think. Basketball-wise, LSU looks like they've got him a good coach. Then there's, Will Wade over there at McNeese, which is a neat story that you've talked about some. But Kim Mulkey, what she's doing down there, she's making everybody push and get up a little bit earlier. But let's get the latest from Baton Rouge. Got a lot of LSU fans already texting me. You've got a huge following of people. They say, man, this is what we need more of. You just can't get it on ESPN. You get the flyby, cursory. Oh, yeah, LSU's in Baton Rouge. You know what they're eating and what time they get up. You know the story.
Well, it's always a lot going on, especially now. Football season is probably the most passionate time of year, but coming up from now through April, it's the busiest. You have March Madness. You have the start of LSU baseball season today at home at the Box against
today. You guys start. Wow, I didn't know you guys started today.
Yeah. Today is the start of baseball season, brother. For college baseball. Softball started last week. They're already 6-0 here in Baton Rouge, and Kim Mulkey and the LSU ladies, they have a game at Texas A&M Monday. They're 21-4 right now, and if they keep that up, they'll be hosting a regional, first and second round in the NCAA tournament. The men, they got off to a 3-1 start in conference play, and now they're 4-7. So they've lost 6 of their last 7 there in conference play. Matt McMahon inherited an awful situation.
Yeah.
A lot of people said last year was not even year 1. It was year 0 for him. This is more like year 1. If they could sneak into an NIT, I think that'd be a good year for him, and then we'll see what happens moving forward. But, yeah, Will Wade, LSU's former coach, that's going to be discussed on message boards forever. Did LSU do the right thing firing him or not? He's at McNeese, and they've got an amazing record right now. I don't know what it is exactly. I think they've only lost 1 game in conference, 21-2 or something like that. And he's got a kid named Christian Schumott who's been dunking and making. I think he was the number 1 play on the ESPN Sports Center there. They on their top 10 plays. So,
wow. Well, Jacques, you're down in Baton Rouge, and Yeah, obviously we talked about you're defending national champions in baseball, and this team this year I saw a preseason top 8, and number 1 they had Wake Forest out there. They had LSU in the top 8, but they lost some guys, but they got a lot coming back. And yeah, and baseball starts. I know Auburn's playing. Everybody's playing a home series this weekend. I think Tennessee's out in Dallas this weekend, but kind of put in perspective, we were talking last night. I was lucky. I was on the Buddy Martin show with Brendan, and we were talking about Florida baseball. They got a hell of a program too. They got a lot of guys back. Talk about this LSU team. No Paul Skeens, but who are some guys you think are going to stand out?
Well, first off, I've been around here long enough that I covered LSU football when they won the national championship with Nick Saban in 2003. And the next year when they came back, he said, "We're not defending national champion. All right. Okay. Yeah. We've won that championship. No one's taking it away. All right. We're not defending anything." And so I think that's kind of the same thing Jay Johnson is saying. Look, the flag is flying that says 2023 national champions. It's not coming down. We're attacking a new opportunity. Now, I think he feels that his pitching, top to bottom, is probably the best staff he's ever had, maybe collectively in depth. Now, there's not perhaps a Paul Skeens, and there may never, ever be another Paul Skeens at LSU. But I think it's a matter of the hitting and how they may have to kind of tinker with the lineup for a long time to find who are going to be the 9 guys they put in the lineup every day, because you lose Dylan Cruz, you lose Gavin Dugas, you lose Trey Morgan, you lose Brayton Jobert. All these hitters, I think 6 of the top 9 hitters from last year are no longer with the team. So the guys they recruited, big name guys, they now have to prove their worth and step into the lineup. And so pitching may carry the day early. But it's a long, long season, and there's going to be, Rob, as there always is, there's going to be a crisis or two along the way. Yeah. They'll get swept by somebody. They'll lose 4 out of 5. Something will happen, and the fans will be like, "This team is going nowhere fast.
They suck."
Yeah, they suck. And then like last year, I mean, they said LSU's got 1 pitcher, Paul Skeens, and that's it. And then Ty Floyd rose to the occasion, and Thatcher Hurd rose to the occasion, and all these other guys. So it's a marathon, not a sprint. It starts today, and if you make it all the way to the end, you're almost at the 4th of July. So that's how long the season is.
Yeah, it really is. It goes to late June, and I love college baseball has become so popular in the SEC because you have to stay for 3 years, and you're going to start seeing a flood of SEC guys inducted into the Major League Baseball Hall of Fame. Right now, the only one is Frank Thomas from Auburn, but LSU, Mississippi State, Arkansas, Ole Miss, Florida. I mean, these programs, you look at the top 8, I think 4 or 5 of the preseason are in the SEC. I want to ask you about football, but I do have to agree with David Arnoff. Mardi Gras just happened, didn't it? It's a sport, right? It is a sport, isn't it? Isn't it? You have to be flexible.
Yeah, well, and some people play the sport better than others. I mean, some people are hanging on the fence at noon, and others they make it deep into the nighttime. It's about pacing yourself. You need to have 1 water for every beer you throw down. But
I feel like I could compete well. I think I could do well in this sport.
Well, my deal is that the Irish proverb is, for every 3 beers you drink, 1 glass of water. That tends to make the hangovers less painful. What did Hank Jr. say? Cornbread and iced tea took the place of pills and 90 proof. That's a great line in one of his songs. All my rowdy friends have settled down.
Well, yeah, that's what I was going to. Didn't he say, "And the hangovers hurt more than they used to"?
Yeah, that's exactly
it.
It.
That's what it is.
So and some people out there, to quote the late great Toby Keith, they're not as good as they once were, but they were good once as they ever was. They're trying to get out there and do it one more time. Like they were 25, but it's a great season, Mardi Gras season. The weather was pretty good. A lot of you can. I don't know. We show that TV camera from Bourbon Street, and you see all those people like sardines down there having a great time. And some people may say, "Man, that's amazing. I'd love to be part of that." And others say, "That's the last place in the world I'd want to be." But you got your small town parades and stuff like that, and then now we're in Lent, man. Now you got to give something up. Now you got to
give something up.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. That is the tough part about it. You go, I saw these guys being interviewed. What are you giving up? And the guy had a huge Drinkosaurus in his hand. He goes, I'm giving up drinking after tonight. Raymond Arroyo on Fox News he's from New Orleans, by the way. But I still think of all the places I've ever been in the world, it's the greatest food city on earth. But I don't think Baton Rouge is that much different, because after Katrina, so many people from New Orleans moved up there. So you probably have the greatest restaurants in the world, because, I know Jimmy Ott's on this show a lot, and he's always doing his show every day from a restaurant. I don't know how he doesn't weigh 600 pounds. He works out hard. He's a great guy, but so are you. You're doing the same thing. Brendan, I want to throw something out there for you. This is true grit journalism. Jacques does great documentary work, and you've got a background of he's got about 20 years of doing TV and production and all. What's on the board right now? Maybe you can tell us, or you can't tell us, your next big project.
Well, the Cecil Collins thing, we worked on that outside of our day-to-day work, of covering sports, and, carved out the pockets of time to do that. And we just didn't know when it was going to happen. It took 3 years. We started doing it when COVID hit, and then I think it finally aired this past October 15th. And so, we got some ideas. The thing you want to do is you want to tell a story that you've got the video to support. I've had people around here that were on LSU's Final Four basketball team in 2006 that want to do something, and I'd love to. But the problem is that all that footage, when you beat Duke and Texas and all of that, I mean, that NCAA CBS footage is untouchable, and it's so expensive if you want to try to do something like that. Now, a thing like Cecil Collins, where we shot a bunch of video ourselves, we can tell that kind of story. So those are the kind of things, you can't have talking heads and no video to support it. It's boring, and you'll punch out in 30 seconds. So those are the kind of challenges.
Well, talking directly about that, one of the major successes of the Swamp Kings with Urban Meyer talking about his time at University of Florida was they found a whole box of footage that was just literally laying around at the University of Florida, which was just, B-roll stuff that they were shooting for practice and stuff that and without that footage, you never would have had that story, right? Because that story was all about seeing mat drills and behind the scenes stuff. And really, and you just can't, you can always reenact everything, but it doesn't work out. And then you're getting into like making a movie, and it's because I've done it both ways, and I totally hear what you said. I don't think people understand that. It's like, it's really imperative to have the right B-roll and to have the right thing to tell the story.
Yeah. Brendan, if you can show any of the B-roll while Jacques is on from the deal about Cecil Collins, the documentary. By the way,
where would I get that, Rob?
We were just
I got it right here.
Yeah, I'm saying I wish I should have told you, but it was released October 15th, and Jacques made sure that's the 5th anniversary of the transfer portal becoming the law of the land. Don't we love the portal?
Wow. I did that. Wow. Okay, I didn't realize that.
I just thought about that. But Jacques, I got to ask you, as a reporter, so you've been doing this a while. Used to be everybody be out there with their Sterno notepad in the back pocket, taking notes at practice. The roster, we're going to have to start putting the crawl up here underneath the screen for the rosters, because they're changing so much. Where do you see a solution coming? How soon is it coming? Because coaches, this trend, Jeff Halford leaves Boston College. Chip Kelly jumps UCLA. Let's be honest, Nick Saban and Alabama people I've talked to have told me when he got back, the conversations he had in the first few days after the Michigan loss, what are you going to give me? And this was from marginal players. And I think he was like, I'm out. And I don't know that, but I kind of get a feeling it was.
Well, and then I saw the story about the Georgia State head coach. They had started spring football. They were 2 days into spring camp, and he leaves to become a tight ends coach at South Carolina. I mean, that's the kind of story, like somebody at work said, well, people don't want to be head coaches anymore. Or some don't want to be head coaches anymore. And I said, wow, that's pretty amazing. But as somebody, and I agree with Nick Saban, and I interviewed Matt Malk the other day, the quarterback of the 2003 national champs who played for Saban. He goes, I'm sure that Coach Saban hates having to kiss the what of kids who have not accomplished a thing,
Yes.
and not only that, but then pay them on top of it. That probably pushed them out. And I've heard the stories about kids, on recruiting visits. Well, yeah, I'll come to campus this weekend. I'd really like to, but it's going to cost you $5,000 for a visit, to come in as you wine and dine me and take me to Ruth Chris or whatever, the case may be. So I think we are creating some monsters out there, and I'm sounding like old man here, but you hear about it. You hear about it in the workforce too. You hear about kids coming out of college and turning down jobs that are paying $60,000 a year because they think they're too good for that, or they, not at my place, obviously, but you hear about other places where they get their feelings hurt at work one day and they call in sick the next day. I mean, this is not real life, right? And so,
and I've heard it where it's players that said they've entered the portal here in Florida. They've entered the portal and they said, well, I'll come out and I'll come back if you bring back such and such coach, or if you bring back this person. It's like they have demands or something. It's like, are you serious? Like you're right. Creating these monsters and it's like the worst age to do that with, right? It's like, you're like 17, 18, 19, 20 years old. And now you have all this control. And we've talked about this many times. It's like you've gutted this old school, way of coaching that's been around for 100 years, which is really what is forming great athletes in the NFL and basketball and everything else. You could never be Bob Knight anymore, and you could never be, it really is. It's the basic training of an athlete that really turns them into men. And it's sad to see, because now what are we going to? It will affect the NFL and professional sports as a whole. We'll start seeing that in the next 3 and 4 years.
Well, we saw it the other day in the Super Bowl. Yeah. Travis Kelce pushing Andy Reid. When I grew up, Coach Russell Reed at Christian Brothers High School, if you'd have pushed that man, you'd have been in the hospital, reconstructive dental surgery. It's unfathomable. I mean, the one time I told my mother to shut up as a kid, I never did it again. No. Guys, you're not an old man, and Brendan, you're not either. You got to restore some order to the asylum, is what it is. I was listening to Bill Hazen Productions up in Chicago. Brendan and I talked to him yesterday. He does a weekly podcast, College Sports Weekly. I love it. And they were interviewing a coach, John Jenkins from Texas. He lives in Florida now. And he said, these kids today, he goes, when I was coaching, you jump their ass, you get them, they get their feelings hurt. It may just break them. He goes, but I always made a point to go in the dressing room after practice, put a smile on their face, say, look, I did it because I'm trying to make you a better man. I'm trying to love you. Nowadays, you push a kid hard, he might be in the portal that night. I'm worried we're going to lose, Jacques, more coaches. We're going to have a bunch of 28-year-olds. So instead of paying them $10 million a year, we'll be paying them $700,000 a year. That's where we're going. We've lost 4 head coaches in the last week to this crap.
Yeah, well, I was at LSU softball media day, and Yvette Girard, a legendary softball coach who coached with the Cajuns in LSU, she's like, I couldn't coach these days. You call a kid lazy, and it's like a felony against the coach. Well, you are lazy. Work harder. You'll get better, And so, that's what you deal with. I sat the bench in high school. I was not a good athlete, but
me and you both, brother. Me and you both. I rode some pine.
But you worked hard. But you learned, if you want something, anything worth having in life's worth fighting for. You didn't become Louisiana Sportscaster of the Year twice because you're lucky.
Well, I appreciate it. You learn the structure of team, and you learn the structure of. It's like a job. I went to practice and went to all the things all the time and ran and, got yelled at and everything. And you take that with you. I wasn't happy every day. Neither was my mom, who thought her son should be playing more. But that's life. And, this profession, right? The 3 of us, it is very fun. It's the greatest job in the world. It's not digging a ditch. It's not working on a roof. But there are things that apply to the job of, hey, you got to show up for work. You've got to work hard. You've got to do your job. You can't just wake up and say, oh, what am I doing today? Okay, calendar, planning, organization, all that stuff applies to whatever you do. So
yeah, but there is a level of in this business where it's I worked on live TV trucks, EVS operator, in-game editor, slow motion replay for 18 years. And that's about as brutal and stressful. Live TV is about as harsh as it gets from directors that are under a lot of pressure, and producers under a lot of pressure. It's a dance out there it was the original live sports TV, and I will have to say sports prepared me for that scenario, where I was ready to be a part of that, a team environment, right? We depended on each other. One didn't happen without the other. And then when I got my ass chewed out, I just pulled my, earphone back a little bit, and I just kind of took it, and I said, okay, he's done. Okay, let's go on to the next thing. So
Jacques,
it's important.
Now I'm with you, and Brendan's exactly. Jacques, you ever had an intern come in there and study under you?
Oh, we've had. Before I've only been the sports director for a few months. Steve Schneider, the sports director before.
Yeah.
We've had many. I don't know how familiar you guys are with the Braves. There was a reporter named Kelsey Wingert, who was their sideline person, or they're on the field. She interned with us. We've had,
wow, yeah,
many interns that have gotten quote unquote real big time jobs. So
we're about less than a mile from the Battery right now, broadcasting here in Atlanta at Mallory's house to see the granddaughter Chandler. So no, the whole point is I interned. I remember for Channel 3 in Memphis, and had a chance to do it in New York. I just didn't want to live up there for 6 months. And I just remember, wow, some of the photographers, Mike Sirianni, different people at Channel 3, tough as nails. God, they didn't care who you were. I had to get up at 2:30 and go in and help with the 4:00 in the morning show. And that producer, she rode to work on a broom. She was a witch. But I learned a lot. You know what that was? I don't give a damn what you get it done. Yeah. That's the greatest thing you learn. And Jacques, TV, that's what I love about the local TV people. You're not out there drinking the Kool-Aid, and you know these people. I want to ask you, where do you see us going in the future with the big national TV? They're laying people off left and right. I think people appreciate locally grown wine, locally grown food, and locally produced news and journalism. That's just what I think.
Well, when I grew up, you watched Dan Rather at 5:30, and then you watched your local news at 6. And, we still have we have a lot of people that watch the news, but you're really, obviously you're reporting around the clock in real time, and people, love the live element, like what we're doing right now. Yesterday we had some very unfortunate news. An LSU running back, Trey Holly, a freshman, was arrested on second-degree murder charges, a shooting that happened in Farmerville on February the 9th. As soon as you get that news, I can go online and we can talk about it and share information. Yeah. Boom, we're on the air. We got a lot of people watching, right? In the past, we'd have to wait till 5 or 6 or whatever the next newscast was. And so now you're doing a lot of that. And but you have to be careful, when you're doing that, to not talk, put the cart before the horse, make judgments and whatnot on things. But I just think it's more around the clock. It's more of this on your computer, on your phone. They used to say, what's the number one thing people do when they wake up in the morning? Turn on their TV. What's the number one thing they do now? Grab their cell phone. So, that's look what we're airing in prime time, Rob. When I grew up, it was you'd watch
Knight Rider
Show and Growing Pains and Who's the Ball. All this. Now we're wearing like The Price is Right in prime time and these god awful bachelor shows and all that stuff.
Oh God. They're so bad.
You love that stuff.
That stuff is just
Rob
garbage.
watches The Bachelor. He has a show that's all about The Bachelor.
I'll go in there and change diapers before I do that. And I hadn't changed diapers in a while.
But,
Jacques,
but with your Netflix and your Hulu and all that stuff,
Well, now at YouTube. YouTube is my daughter's 11, and that she doesn't watch TV. Like she just doesn't, she's right on YouTube. She sets her, notifications for the shows, and and that's what she watches all day long. Not all day long. I mean, she plays soccer, goes to school.
She's
but I
in
mean, when
school,
she's
of
on,
course, 7 of those hours.
and also a premier soccer athlete, by the way, which she had an interesting thing last night, which talked about harking back to the conversation we were having before, where she had a field trip she could have gone to with her friends last night, but she's on this premier soccer league here in Ocala, Florida, and it's a commitment, right? Because it's it's not that everyone makes the team, kind of thing. Everyone gets a medal. It's like it's old school, which I liked about it. And she made the team, and I said, this is a commitment. She said, well, last night, Dad, I really want to go to this field trip, and they're all going to the Mexican restaurant. I was like, put your cleats on, man. Like, you're going to soccer. You made a commitment. You got a game coming up this weekend. You got a tournament the following weekend. You're not gonna start. Do you want this or do you not want this?
Yeah.
And I'm Gen X, right? I'm 50. I got a younger daughter, but it's like, man, some of her friends are, they wonder why they don't play because they miss practice all the time. Because, I want to do this, I want to do that. It's like, well, there's no level of commitment and there's no buy-in in that process, and it starts right away, 10, 11, 12 years old.
Yeah. Jacques, the last question before we let you go. I know you got a big day ahead of you. Of this LSU team, this football team coming up, Nussmeier, he's son of a coach. Talk about that quarterback room and year 3 for Brian Kelly. What can people expect, and when does spring practice start in Baton Rouge?
March the 4th, I believe, 3rd or 4th.
All right.
It will be the start of spring practice. They play their spring game on April the 13th, 15th. Yeah, 13th. So it seems a little earlier than usual in terms of finishing up spring ball and all that. But, as you said, Garrett Nussmeier has been on the team since the 2021 season. He has waited his turn behind Jaden Daniels, but obviously started the bowl game against Wisconsin and had a big game and led LSU to a victory, drove them, I think, 99 yards for the game-winning score there at the end. He obviously will not be throwing to Malik Neighbors, who everyone around here thought got shafted in the Bolitnikoff to Marvin Harrison Jr., but Brian Thomas Jr. will also be moving on to the NFL. So those two big wide receivers are moving on. But I think that they're confident in the offense in terms of the receivers they have. They got a young man from Liberty University who had a big season. And then they got a wide receiver from Mississippi State, Xavier Thomas. And then they got some returners coming back. I think defensively, obviously, they had an awful season, a season that cost them from competing for an SEC championship and perhaps a playoff spot. And so they wiped out the entire defensive staff. Basically, everyone was fired. Got some big names in. Bo Davis from Texas, the coach of defensive line. Kevin Peoples, the edge rusher, Missouri. Blake Baker, who was here in 2021, is now the new defensive coordinator from Missouri as well. Corey Raymond returns after spending, I think, 12 years on the staff. So they've got the coaches. Now, Rob, they need to get more players. And I guess the good news is about the transfer portal is that it kind of gives you free agency to go out and try to find some guys, which they're going to have to do April 15th when the portal opens. They need defensive linemen badly, and they need, some other guys in the secondary, I think. So we'll see how that works and who they bring aboard. But once again, huge season opener in which they play in Las Vegas against the USC Trojans on a Sunday night, Labor Day weekend.
Yeah. Hey, and they're playing UCLA. They're playing 2 teams like that in the first 4 games. Got to credit LSU. Jacques, always love having you on. Appreciate you taking time to join us and our viewers. Let people know how they can follow you and keep up with all the great work you're doing, and already looking forward to your next visit.
Well, Brendan was nice enough to have our nice little logo next to my head. That's our station, WAFB, WAFB.com. Follow me on X and Facebook and all those great platforms. A busy day today, as I talked about. LSU baseball is starting. Our high school sports are, our girls basketball playoffs are starting. We have semifinals and state soccer happening with our local teams. And so, those are the kind of things that we make the effort to get out and cover. Those are the things you can't see on ESPN, and that's what engages your.
Where's your YouTube? Would you have a YouTube channel for your documentary stuff, or?
Yeah, if you look up WAP here, Cecil versus the Diesel, you'll find it pretty quickly.
Okay.
The documentary's been uploaded to YouTube. It's 37 minutes. It's a relatively quick watch, and you can watch it there. We had to kind of keep it to that length in terms of it airing on TV and commercial breaks and all that, but That's great.
Well, it's the ingestible stuff. Rob and I, when I came on, I said, being the mean producer, I said, Rob, we got to go from 2 hours to 1 hour for these shows because that's the ingestible time that you have on YouTube and all the other stuff. And we've changed that format from radio and from all that, where it's because we don't do these breaks anymore, right? We just rip through an hour and it's like the magic time. So I know what you mean. So we'll check that out on your YouTube channel. I can't wait to watch. I can't play it less obviously because I'll hit copyright on this end. But
right.
If you ever want to send me a clip next time you're on, I'm happy to show any promo you got for it.
Yeah,
I appreciate it.
Hey,
Thank
thanks so much, Jacques.
Okay.
All right.
He's my favorite guest. I think he's my new favorite. He's my new favorite guy.
No, he's so damn good.
He's my guy. He's my buddy now.
Yeah, Audrey and I met him like a couple of years ago over in Atlanta at Media Days, and just having done a couple of years at local TV in Columbus, News 3 on your side, WRBL on 13th Street. It is just, I have a ton of respect for what he does, and he works so hard. But when you watch that documentary on Cecil the Diesel, you're going to see what I'm talking about. It's really good stuff. And, we're going to have just a second. William Halliday will be joining us, Bo Carter, and also Will Gunter from the game over in Columbia, South Carolina, who covers the Gamecocks. And Will, in AAU basketball, he actually was coaching and working with Zion Williamson and Ja Morant. So he's given us some cool perspective because Memphis fans shake their heads about Ja Morant. All this talent. Went to Murray State a couple of years, played there, and just some of the stupid off-the-court stuff that he's done. I don't think he's a bad person. I think, let's be honest, if anyone had a GoPro on them every moment of their lives, holy cow. That's why when you work for people, you sometimes will sign an NDA, non-disclosure agreement. That we have to be very careful. But I will say, that incident the other night in the Super Bowl, Travis Kelce pushing on Andy Reid like that, you can't allow that. It's called a chain of command. You don't talk back to a coach.
No, you don't.
You just don't. You don't do it.
But it's like, what do you do? Andy Reid handled it so well, right? He's just stone cold. And Tom Brady came out and defended him yesterday, which, with Kelce, which was interesting. And it's, it's one of those things, in the heat of battle, you hate to see the frame of a picture. And certainly that's disrespectful. And it's so like you struggle there because you got this amazing athlete, right? Like obviously he's a specimen and he's probably, having some sort of rage. I'm not making any sort of comments there, Rob, but I'm sure he's very passionate. So, what do you do with that? Right. Do you and I think that's why Andy Reid's just one of the best, right, of all time, because he just knows how to manage these great players. And that's so difficult in this day and age. And be successful, right? And hats off to him. Really handling it just like it was nothing. Like he was like,
he could have made a big deal out of it. I'm interested when Bo Carter and William and the guys come on in here with us. Holy cow, what do we got there?
It's an alien attack.
It's Insect Friday.
It's Insect Friday.
Hey, you're right about your daughter. And this happens in Memphis because we're in the middle of the greatest duck hunting in the world. These kids will make the A team in basketball in 7th and 8th grade. And all of a sudden, all those games on Saturdays, they all of a sudden get buyer's remorse. They're like, I'm going to miss duck hunting. Many a time, Don Johnson or different friends of mine would bring my kids over to the duck club if they had a game. I was usually at their games. I rarely missed them, but I've got to do my time in the duck blind. It's just, there's nothing like a Saturday morning dog training or in the duck blind with him. You do. But, and also I need a t-shirt. Let me tell you what, one of our club members at the Cherry Farm, Michael Jordan, will drive out there to the pits and the blinds and deliver hot pizzas in the morning from Pete and Sam's. And it's sausage. Pete and Sam's is this great Italian restaurant in Memphis. You can't beat it. And then road sodas after the hunt. No road sodas allowed during the hunt, but we have a lot of fun with it.
You got guns in your hands. It's probably
that's right. That's right. Safety first. I'm going to tell you something. The hunt's over once you cross that line. There is a chain of command there. There's no forgiveness on that one. Are the guys in the studio yet?
Oh, there you go. Will Gunter just joined us.
Yeah, Will Gunter joined
2
us right now.
seconds ago. It's like you felt his presence. We'll bring him on in.
Well, Will
Hello,
Gunter.
Will. How are you?
I'm good. Are we good?
Yeah, we're good. We're on. That's how we do it, man. We just rock it. Just bring it in, man.
It's like a little. I was like looking at this. I was like, all right, welcome. Good to see y'all.
I'm out of my
Welcome
normal
to the show.
studio that I have over at the house with my SEC map in the background. We're actually in Atlanta. We last Thursday we drove to Knoxville, spent the night on Rocky Top with cousin Mark. Friday drove to Charlotte through the mountains of East Tennessee and Western North Carolina, which, by the way, some of the most beautiful. It's absolutely gorgeous. And spent the weekend in Charlotte, Will, and then drove down. We're in Atlanta right now, heading back today or tomorrow. Look, this is our new executive producer, Brendan Martin, down in Ocala, Florida. Also does the Buddy Martin Show at night. And Brendan, this is another one of these guys you'll love. True Grit Journalism. Now, what about the Par and Grill? You're not there today, are you?
No, I had to run it. We've got some stuff I got to do today, so I can't be. I need to push that back about 3 or 4 hours. Let's just say that. Let's just.
Brendan, you got to love. Tell him about LJ. Is it LJ's Par and Grill?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. It's right outside of Columbia.
Yeah, kind of like a redneck Top Golf, if you will. There's an actual driving range. No games, no game. Well, it depends on what kind of games you decide that it's worth. There are some trash cans out there that you can create your own game, but yeah, it's a great place. Obviously, was up there for the Super Bowl on Sunday night. Was hanging out, so yeah. I got to pick up some kids. Apparently, my daughter's acquired a new dog today. There's a few other. This was thrown at me late last night, so Friday is gonna be interesting here.
What kind of dog?
I have we don't have enough time for me to explain the story.
Okay.
I had 2 incidents this week where my kids, there's certain times when your kids call you, and I got an 11 and a 14-year-old, and there's certain times when they call you and you're like, oh, this is not good. Why are they calling me at this time? They know I'm busy, or they should be in school. And one phone call was about a broken cell phone, and the other last night was about a dog that wandered up, and so it's going to be an interesting Friday, that's for sure.
Well, half the dogs I've ever had have been strays, like Taco that my mother and father found one night at the Taco Bell dumpster. She lasted a long time. The rest of them have been black labs. Yeah, love them. All right, let's talk about the Gamecocks. Will, did you see this coming? 14th in the conference preseason, and all I've heard from everybody that's watching, Lamont Paris, people really like this coach, and he's a really good coach. But I thought the other night, Auburn coming off just getting stomped by Florida down at the O'Connell Center. I still call it that. This South Carolina team is really good. Auburn, it's just one of those nights, just like what happened to Auburn a couple of days earlier. But I see Carolina bouncing back, and I think they're going to be a 3 or a 4 seed in the tournament. Do you see it that way?
We're still really learning about this basketball team from what you just said, and this will be a test. Now, I really do. I'm with you. I like Lamont Paris. I love how when Lamont Paris talks, he's about as honest as anybody I've ever heard. When they lost to Alabama in conference play earlier this year by, I think, 27, he basically said, hey, this was not your typical run-of-the-mill off night. He said, he in the post-game press conference, he basically said, hey, we had guys that were too worried about getting theirs, too worried about their playing minutes. He put it on his team. And he just flat said, hey, our guys maybe read a little bit too much of their own press clippings. They talk too much trash. He said, without calling his team out, he called his team out. We've talked about it on our radio show. Lamont Paris, Frank Martin was a bigger than life individual. He's just a big physical hulking presence. And then obviously his sideline demeanor exacerbated that. But, Frank Martin would get upset with his team, and he'd go into a press conference and he'd just cut you down. But he did it in a way that I guess was just very big, very vocal. Lamont Paris will cut his team down, but it's almost like talk quietly, carry a big stick. You don't really know you're being cut down until you go back and listen to the verbiage of what he said. And he did that after the Alabama game. The Georgia game, they're winning. And they missed free throws. And in the post game, he basically says, he comes out and says in the postgame, look, you're a college basketball player. You've got to be able to make free throws. You're here at this level. You have to make free throws. And on Wednesday night, he gave all the credit in the world to Auburn. He said, look, we played our game. They played their game. They won. Our guys tried. He even last night on his call-in show basically talked about, he really wasn't into making his guys watch the film because they know they lost by 40. That was just one of those games where you're at home. The other team shoots 61% from the field, 60% from three-point range. They missed 2 free throws. My co-host, when he brought it up and you looked at the numbers, you really broke down the numbers. Auburn, with that crowd, played about as close to a perfect game as you could play.
Yeah.
I mean, they really did. That was a night where Auburn was just I don't know if there's a team, and I watch a lot of college basketball. They were amped up for that game. They had come off the loss. They had read the press clippings about South Carolina. They knew the importance, and Auburn was probably about as close to 100% as you're going to get in college basketball. And kudos to them. I love Bruce Pearl. I used to talk to him on the AAU circuit. I think the world of him. I've heard other stories of what coaches have to do to get recruits. That's far worse than anything Bruce Pearl ever did with Aaron Kraft at Tennessee. So, to me, Bruce Pearl is a great coach. He's a great person. I'm a huge fan of his. But it was just one of those nights there in Auburn where things went the Tigers' way, and South Carolina did what they typically try to do, and it just didn't work. I mean, that's just flat point blank. It didn't work.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned Frank Martin. I'm a huge fan of his as well. Where is he now?
He's at UMass. He's at Massachusetts.
I mean, you're right. He's bigger than life, but I've been watching him since his days at Kansas State. And I'm with you on what goes on. Mark Twain said it best. If you like the law or you like sausage, don't ever watch either one of them when they're being made. Recruiting, the process of recruiting, it's what it is. And I'm not going to say it is what it is, but now it's all out in the open. Okay. For South Carolina, how much does what Dawn Staley does have to do with pushing everybody else on that campus? Because she strikes me as someone who goes to the games of other teams, just like Bruce Pearl was talking about Johnny Harris, Auburn's women's basketball coach. Get out there and support her. You'll see them in Omaha at the College World Series. You would see Gus Malzahn, you see Bruce Pearl, whatever. How much of that do you see with Dawn Staley? Do you ever get a chance to interact with her?
We did at one point, and then she became worldwide, and the local people were a little bit too small. But I love Dawn. I used to go to her practices when I was coaching basketball, and her mentality and her mindset. It's interesting with Dawn though, because Dawn Staley's been at South Carolina for 16 years now, and I don't want to say she didn't have anybody she could mentor, because that's not true. There are other sports, but when you're coaching alongside Steve Spurrier, who's won a national championship and has the reputation he has, and even alongside Frank Martin, and Frank was a great guy. I mean, I still tell the story about when I was going through a divorce back in 2016, 2017, something like that. He called me up, said, "Hey, let's go play golf. I just want to hang out with you." And he, we didn't talk a single 18 holes. We didn't talk basketball. We talked life, and we talked about at that point, I think I was 35. We talked about my future, and that was him being a friend. And I can say Frank didn't always like some of the things that I would say on radio at times, but the bottom line is he was there as a friend. But Frank was not that guy that I think Dawn Staley could stroll up to and say, "Hey, let me just give you some advice on this." And certainly she couldn't do that with Steve Spurrier. The baseball coach at the time, Ray Tanner, had been in multiple championships and actually won 2. Dawn was the person that nobody talked about with that group. And when Will Muschamp came in for football, I wouldn't say he was overly approachable. He has his way of doing things. So what you get now is Lamont Paris, who's trying to find his ways, navigating not only SEC basketball, but is navigating Columbia and how to get into the community and everything. And I think this is a great opportunity for Dawn to kind of take him under her wing. And she's not out there saying this is what you should do, X's and O's, but it's more of a like, hey, this is how you need to get into the community. This is how we're going to build your program. You need a little bit of help. You're from Chattanooga. This is your first big time job. it's an entirely different scenario. So she's really supportive of him. She gets very supportive of the softball team. Obviously, she's supportive of Shane Beamer and the football team. But I think with Lamont, this is a little bit different because she can kind of use her blueprint to say, hey, this is how maybe you should do things with the community and with marketing and everything that she's done. So she has become more involved.
Well, you hear this over and over about coaches nowadays. They don't give a damn about the local media, and they just go to the national media. I think that's a mistake because, yes, you're in Columbia, the capital city where the university is, but you've got a show that's statewide. You've got a statewide reach. And when things start falling apart, you can't count on the people in Bristol, Connecticut. Okay. They're not going to have your back. You're able to connect with the fans. You know the Gamecock culture. You know the people, I would guess, involved with Gamecock. What's the Gamecock NIL collective called?
There's two of them, Garnet Trust and Carolina Rise right now. And a third one with the university. No, just Garnet Trust and Carolina Rise. That's right.
Okay. Yeah. And so you know these people. But I hear this from a lot of coaches. People said, Gene Chizik in Auburn wouldn't have anything to do with the local media. And that I don't like that trend at all. But it's just unfortunately what's happening right now. And you just said it about Don Staley. What about Lamont Paris? How accessible is he?
Well, let me go back to Dawn real quick. There are coaches that just grow out of needing that. What Dawn's done is rare across college sports, whatever sport. She's cultivated a fan base that she can reach out to. And, you don't always need the local media when you now have social media. There was a picture put up of her last Sunday. She's going up and down the aisles helping put out white T-shirts.
Okay.
And so, you can reach is so different now than even 15 years ago for a coach, because you can be your own voice as to what you want to project. You don't need to come on a local radio station. No, it's funny. We see her. She doesn't live far from our studio, and we have 3 big glass windows, and we'll see her walking by our studio with a buggy pushing her dog. She got a little tiny pocket dog, I guess is what you call it. But anyway,
pocket dog.
but anyway, she so I understand it, and I'm not really upset about it. She's cultivated a fan base that puts 16,000 fans in that arena. And I'll be honest, just real quick to go way off topic, of late with Lamont Paris, and this will kind of circle back to what you were going with Lamont Paris and South Carolina basketball winning. I've been to, I think I've not been to, I've not actually been in the facility at Missouri, and I have not seen a game at Texas A&M, but I've walked through that facility when I was out there for a football game. I'm not a fan of South Carolina's arena. It's too big, 17,000. The men don't ever, very rarely do they ever put 17,000 in the actual facility. And I say that because I've been a big part of, hey, what you should do is build an arena just like Auburn's. What is it? 9,200. I think it's 99,171, something like that. Yes. It's 9,200 seats. And so I say that because that's what I think South Carolina needs. And the reason people don't want to build a new arena is because of Dawn Staley and the fact that they put 16,000 in that arena. They're like, well, wait a minute, where's all the other fans going to go? So she's cultivated her own fan base. Now back to Lamont Paris. Wow. People are turning out for his game now. Look, it's hard, Rob. You know this. Brian Harsin probably is a perfect example. When you're losing, there's nobody that really wants to hear you on the radio. When you're 11-21 in basketball last year and you're getting clobbered by 40 on some nights, what are you going to say to your public? I mean, what exactly are you going to say that people go, hey, yeah, I tell you what, let's give this guy the benefit of the doubt. And so Lamont was, I don't want to say not accessible last year, but nobody wants to hear him come on the radio with us and joke around about what he does in his spare time or what his favorite mac and cheese. He's a chef. He cooks. Yeah. What his mac and cheese recipe is. Now that he has a team, he's been phenomenal. He's one of my favorite people to have on the radio because he's a different kind of guy. We asked him, we said, what do you do in your spare time for fun? He said, oh, I wash my own car. He said, that's how you do it. You wash your own car. You don't take it to a drive-through. Man, that was great. And then we actually went to a break. And he looks at me and goes, so are we going to talk about the greatest of all time in the NBA? I was like, oh, you're winning now. You want to cover all kinds of things.
Yeah.
And so he's become more accessible. He's become a guy that, because South Carolina fans didn't know him. They didn't know his personality. And that's how he's been. But he's done a great job here really in the last 10 months.
Yeah. Will, sorry, I didn't mean to. I know we've got to get going. I'm in the Eastern time zone in Atlanta, and I had some guests that were going to come on here, and I gave them the wrong time by an hour, so I've got to bring them on, because we're changing the show format to shorter shows now. But anyway, let us know how people can follow you. I want to get you back on next week, and we're gonna work out a time during the week that's the best one for you to get on, because want to keep up with the Gamecocks. And again, always appreciate you taking time. Really means a lot to our viewers, because you know what the hell you're talking about, not just with South Carolina, but the big picture of the SEC.
Yeah. I mean, again, we got 3. We're on a radio network: Columbia, Florence, and Myrtle Beach. Columbia is 107.5 The Game. You can actually, if you ever want to just tune in wherever you're listening this morning, you actually go to your app store on your smart device, download the 107.5 The Game app, and listen to us. If you're in Florence, it's 100.5. If it's Myrtle Beach, it's 100.3 The Game. Is how you can listen on your radio, for people to still do that, actually. But certainly, and then on Twitter, at Will, WIL, Gunter, GUNTER is the easiest way to follow me. And we're getting into that time baseball side. I don't know if y'all are big baseball. Big baseball show this morning that I've got a speaking of a crazy day, we'll be handling that as baseball starts, college baseball.
Yep. Right, we're going to be talking about it next week with basketball, spring practice, all that stuff, man. Thanks so much. Have a great weekend.
Hey, y'all too. Take care.
Thanks, Will.
Yeah, we'll bring in William, the intern, and Bo Carter. Sorry about that, gentlemen. I'm in Atlanta, and I'm sending out so much stuff. I gave you Eastern times versus Central time. And then, like, the other night, Brendan was like, hey, can you come on the Buddy Martin show? He put at 9:40, and I'm like, huh? I mean, I'm thinking 10:40, in Central and Eastern. And half my guests on the show or more are in Eastern time zone. But William, Bo, William, follow me here. Bill Hazen, what a connection. Brendan and I had a conversation with that guy yesterday. That voice is like Harry Callis here, NFL. Brendan
Hello,
Martin.
Brendan. Nice to talk to you today.
What a voice, man. I mean, my God, like Harry Callis here, Brendan Martin, tough kid, grew up in the mean streets of Chicago. And I tell you what, if you know Brendan Martin, you know what a badass is. At 6'4", 232 pounds. He was born. He lifted manhole covers on the streets when he grew up as a kid. He had
my whole background and bio. I thought we were live.
God, when he called me the other day, I told Brendan this, and I said, "Why do I know you?" And he said, "You might recognize my voice from The Last Dance, the documentary on Michael Jordan. I was the TV voice of the Chicago Bulls." I went, oh, yeah, that's Bo. And Bo, by the way, on the podcast, you are fantastic.
Thanks.
I mean, it really is. I told you, I've been following you since '79 in the SEC Sports Journal. But, man, what a connection. And, William, you got to follow this guy, Bill Hazen. Bill Hazen Productions. I mean, Bo, wow. This is why we got to have you on here. But, look, it's baseball this weekend. Aren't you going to the Shriners Baseball Classic out there? Maury Gaston, hi, Rob. I'm listening live from the city with your favorite name. I got to say it, on the Metroplex. There's a lot of college baseball this weekend. Kind of lay the groundwork for that, because William was a hell of a baseball player at MUS, my bitter rival in high school.
You there, William?
Oh, yeah. Can you hear it? Yeah.
Sorry.
Yes.
Yeah.
William.
Did you want me to talk about how we beat y'all in high school every year?
There it is.
Well, if you drive down Walnut Grove and you see all those, 15 state championship things and about 17 runner-ups, a lot of tradition
got you
in baseball.
Football.
Yeah,
you did. In football. Okay.
You did. You're right about that. All right, but Bo, I mean, I want to hear about this big baseball deal. Tennessee's out there this weekend. Mark Ham's out there. Let's talk about the college baseball season, because you're with the Baseball Writers Association of America as well.
Yeah, they've had this for, I think, 4 years now, Robin. It's been 1 year, I think 5 of the 6 teams in it went to the NCAA World Series. So it's like it's really showcase or whatever. Oregon's out here, Texas Tech, Baylor, Nebraska, which is supposed to have a much better team this year, or whatever. So it's great baseball. Best part about it, the games are guaranteed. They've got the retractable roofs, so no weather problems. So that's one of the fun parts about it.
Yeah, William, college baseball starts this weekend. Plainsman Park, Hitchcock Field. Make sure you know who Mr. Billy Hitchcock was. Sigma Nu at Auburn, by the way, badass, former commissioner of the Southern League in baseball. That's a cool story. But you going to go out there and see Coach Butch Thompson's Tigers play?
Well, one, there's also a big game this weekend, Kentucky-Auburn, and people are camping out for that game. So that's, to me, that's going to take importance. But I will go see some games in the future for that. But I did get to, I don't know if I got to tell you, Rob, but I got to write a story on some of the assistant coaches that just, one of them, I can't remember, I think it's Foxworth. Who came from Mississippi State. I got to write a story on him. Hopefully my editors will get to put that up soon. But I wrote a story on him, and then I actually got to go to a media availability with Butch Thompson yesterday, and got to hear him talk about just the season, what they're going to look for in their first game coming today. So, yeah.
Bo Carter, finding pitchers, and William's seeing this, Brendan knows this. It's so hard to find them. What's changed about college baseball from when you were covering it from 74 to 86 at Mississippi State and there?
Well, yeah, it's you've got a lot of, the major leagues used to really grab all those kids out of high school, but with the improved baseball facilities and the more, better coaching, better training now, really the majority of the MLB baseball drafts will be college players or whatever, or junior college. So it's changed dramatically, as you can imagine. You used to have a lot of submarine throwers and everything. People sort of gadget pitchers or whatever. Now it's I think Tennessee a couple of years ago had 3 guys that threw in the middle 90s or whatever. So man, you've got to come up there every day with a bat. But it's changed dramatically over the last 30, 40 years because of the both the fields of play, especially in the SEC. It's night and day over what it was 25, 30 years ago.
Yeah, William, when you were coming up, when your dad and I played for Grace St. Luke's, ask your dad about that. It was competitive. I mean, now it's a competitive league. How many years did you play baseball?
I played probably up until junior year from first grade. So however many years that is, 11, 10, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, and we had Dr. Andrews on here, who just retired after the Iron Bowl, Auburn's orthopedic surgeon and the greatest ever. Talked about, used to see maybe a dozen Tommy John's cases a year. Toward the end of his career, over 200. Okay, William, you look at college baseball. It is, the popularity is exploding. There's 35 or 40 media people at every LSU baseball press conference, but the growth at Auburn, it's kind of a landlocked stadium, but they're creating an atmosphere. How hot a ticket is that to get out there in the outfield? I know there's a little game tomorrow against the Kentucky Wildcats tomorrow at the Neville, but how hot is college baseball? Do you like to go to those games? Is that what the kids like to do?
I think a lot of people will definitely, once basketball season ends for sure, and it gets into the SEC schedule, more people will start showing up in the jungle, and the outfield will become more popular at that time. But Kentucky games around. But anyways, with baseball, I do think the popularity has grown, especially here at Auburn, considering that Auburn's been to 2 College World Series in the past few years. When you're good and you're playing well, fans usually show up, and I think that's what's happening here at Auburn. Another thing I wanted to mention about what you were
look at that Gators.
Where you guys been the last 2 years? Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Tell me how good Auburn is in baseball.
How good is Caglione?
I want to hear all about
William,
it.
Okay.
William,
All right,
how
great.
good is Jack Caglione? That guy. 33
He
home
feels
runs
good.
last year.
He feels good because Florida beat us in basketball, and then he wants to bring up baseball. So,
Hey,
I'm
look, I'll tell you what, Bo Carter and I guess it's Bill Hazen. One of the highlights of the college baseball season is a sophomore from Iuka, Mississippi, Bo Carter. I mean, God, that guy's voice. Hey, we want him to be part of this SEC network. He's incredible. did he live in Dallas for a while? I mean,
Yes,
I know
yes.
that's
He did. He was part of the. He did the Pony Express with James and Dickerson or whatever is the SMU announcer those years. And
he was the play-by-play guy when
for SMU.
Craig James and
Eric
Dickerson. Wow, Brendan, did you hear that? We got to get him to tell those stories. What if NIL had been around back then? Wait, it was, Bo.
they were only 45 years ahead of their time. While Brendan has his Gator hat on, Baseball America had a story. Florida has won the most games over the last 10 years of any division with 429 wins. So I'm sure that's going to be on the Buddy Martin podcast.
And we just locked up Kevin O'Sullivan till 3,035. I don't think I'll be alive when he changes coaches. So
I just have one question.
That guy's a badass, by the way.
Yeah,
he's hilarious.
Oh my God, he's great. He's great. He's like Nick Saban of baseball almost.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's awesome.
Yeah, he's got to be.
Florida's got a powerhouse this year, by the way. They got some bats.
Well, add him to the long list of great Irish Catholic coaches. I'm just going to say that. Just,
oh my God, the Irish Catholic.
Yeah, hey, you can't. There's nothing better.
Presbyterian coaches, those guys are badasses, man. Those are the ones,
Well, hey, but
they'll drink with you afterwards. And
hey, let me tell you something. And I know that Brendan can answer, but William, the best baseball player in college, if it's not Jack Caglione at Florida, who is it that you've seen?
To be honest, I haven't watched as much baseball, but there was a guy last year or a few years ago on Tennessee's team that could hit the ball like really well. I can't remember his name. I think he's graduated now, but I can't remember his name. But on Auburn, what's his first name? Last name Ike.
Ike Irish.
Ike Irish.
That's a great name,
Irish.
by the way.
Yes, sorry. Ike Irish, guy I saw last year. He's a pretty good player too. Someone I've seen.
Yeah. Bo Carter, again, looking now at this big weekend, you said of the there's 6 teams in that big baseball classic in the Metroplex. 5 of them last year went to the College World Series. N on the side of the Nebraska helmet stands for knowledge.
Knowledge.
How good are they in baseball? I mean,
they're pretty good. They've got a coach, one of the great names of all time, Will Bolt. We used to always say, will he bolt or won't he bolt?
Sounds like some of those names on the Beverly Hillbillies. Remember,
I know.
Dash, Riprock, Bolt, Upright.
That's right.
They used to always have dates with Ellie Mae, I might add.
Oh, man. And going back, Nebraska had never made the NCAA World Series till 99 or 2000. And when they did, 2001, actually. And when they did, George Bush was there to throw out the first pitch for the Tulane-Stanford game. It started the World Series. And ironically, 4 months later, they took President Bush down to the bunker at Offutt Air Force Base during 9/11. So, I mean, talk about juxtaposition of history there. But no, they're supposed to have a really good ball club this year, and he's done. They recruit a lot of kids out of Texas, so they really have made some inroads there.
Yeah, William. Here's a question from Shoney, Valdosta, Georgia. Who at SMU bought Marcus Dupree the car before he chose Oklahoma? Oops, hard to repo that one. Well, there was always the story I think we've all heard about when Eric Dickerson got a maroon Trans Am from Aggieland, and then he went to SMU. What are they going to do about that? But William, looking at also college basketball right now, you were at the Neville the other night. I mean, they really are. They're camping out for these games now. We just had Will Gunter from the game over in Columbia, South Carolina. They got a 17,000-seat Colonial Life Arena. The men would rather have something like what Auburn has, he says. But the problem is, Dawn Staley, the women's team, they're bringing in 16,000, 17,000 every game. She's created her own culture. And you look at women's coaches, they're much more hands-on with the fans. No, Bruce Pearl is too. But what's the message to the coaches who are distant from the fans? Because if you don't win, they're not going to back you, are they?
Yeah, no. I think that's something that Coach Pearl has done a really good job of, is just kind of connecting with the fans and just being out in line with the Auburn students, as well as just the donors as well. I went to the Auburn Tennessee game last year. He still has connections at Tennessee. from all the gunners that sit in the front row, and just having relationships with them as well. So I think it is important as a coach to have those relationships to get people to come to your games. And I think that's what Bruce has done a really good job of in rebuilding this Auburn basketball program to where it is now.
Yeah.
They played pretty good at Florida the other night.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay,
All
right. That's like every team on the road right now. Okay, like every top 10
awesome.
team on the road is like.
It was impressive. I mean, they really put up a fight.
Yeah. Well, you know what though? I watched Kansas go on the road to Texas Tech Monday night. God, they got beat 79-50. Bill Self was so mad he got himself thrown out of the game. He was laughing. Bo Carter, best basketball league in America right now. The Big 12. I think Kansas has 4 or 5 losses. They're all on the road. Rock, chalk, Jayhawk. By the way, explain what that means. Also explain to me kind of these cheers. I mean, there's some strange – what's so haunting about Rock, Chalk, Jayhawk, Bo? You've been to every arena in the world and some on planets outside of this hemisphere.
I think part of it, it's like Indiana. Part of it was all the limestone found around Lawrence, Kansas, or whatever.
Okay.
And Rock Chalk Jayhawk sort of has a little internal rhyme, but when they do that, KU, it sounds like a ghost cheer or something. It intimidates the heck out of
KU. That's what they're saying. KU.
KU, Rock Chalk Jayhawk, KU. And scares I mean, I get intimidating chant there.
Feels like I'm at Texas A&M. And
that's right. That's right.
I mean, but you know what? I will say this, Bo. You didn't you do a book with Dennis Dodd about great places to eat in Big 12 country?
Yes, the Big 12.
When is somebody going to do one about great places to eat in the SEC footprint? Which, what do people not know about Texas and OU in the SEC 14-team footprint right now that they better learn quickly? Because July 1st is going to be here quicker than you think.
It really will be. The barbecue sauce in Texas is thicker than they need that. They need that mustard and vinegar based barbecue sauce like this South. We have to find restaurants out here that have it. But no, it's you can't get a bed steak and Cattleman's in Oklahoma and like 50 steakhouses in Texas. So
yeah.
The fans better make sure their cholesterol is low before the season starts.
Yeah, kind of like that skit with Chris Farley. I never eating the pork chop stuck down in there. All right, William, are you ready to make the road trips to Austin, Texas, where the bumper stickers say, you know what the motto is? Keep it weird, Austin, or Norman, Oklahoma? Because we had Tyler McComas from KREF, does a great show every afternoon. He goes, we just talk Sooners, Boomer Sooner. And he said, they did a study, the Chamber of Commerce in Norman. I talked about this yesterday. Economic impact every time OU plays a home game. Those Big 12 teams don't travel like SEC teams do. So it's about $11 million for the Norman, ADI right there, which is Oklahoma City too, but Norman itself. They studied Tuscaloosa, Fayetteville, and Lexington, KY. Now, you're too young to remember legendary former shoe salesman for Converse, Joe Dean, the athletic director at LSU later, used to do TV games with Tom Hammond. And a guy would be hitting swishes. Ask your dad about this. And he would say, little string music from downtown Lexington, KY. And little Stufferino. Ask him about that. Okay.
Rob's going to break the new mic that I just got for him. He's going to
That's right.
back it off a little bit there, brother.
Okay.
I have access to your computer now, so I can shut you right down.
Hey, did you get that new computer yet?
Yes. By the way,
I have remote access, William. It's okay.
William is awesome, kid. I love him. Look, we asked the other day about what computer we should get. It wasn't 10 seconds. He was replying, and I think he was in line to get to an Auburn basketball game like all night. And he helped us out. What did we get? A Mac? I don't even know what it is. It's a Mac.
So let me get this right. So you asked me what computer to get, and then I told you, and then you asked William.
He wanted the discount.
Well, we wanted the discount that he gets. That's what we were talking about.
And
we knew what to get.
He could have gotten it online himself instead of asking me to get it for him, and then it would have had to be a whole transfer thing. But I
That's
got
what
What
it
you
was.
get, like, it's
I
like
gotta
$10 off.
so,
Yeah.
Yeah.
What,
Yeah.
$3 off.
Yeah.
It's kind of, you know who Rube Goldberg is? He would walk around the corner to cross the street instead of
No.
jaywalking. I mean, come on. All right, let's got a few more minutes, a little bit long, and I apologize for giving the times to y'all incorrectly. But Bo Carter, Bill Hazen here with Bo Carter. You've got to this podcast is awesome. But Bo, what's the big story right now that you see in college athletics? Is it Greg Sankey and the Big Ten getting together? What is it?
2 words, Caitlin Clark. You know,
Yeah.
She's everywhere. She's everywhere. And the big story, sort of a controversial thing, Lynette Woodard set the all-time college scoring record for women when they had the Association of Intercollegiate Athletics for Women. Then the NCAA took over in '82. So I think Clark's going to go ahead and top her record. She needs, I think, 98 points to break that. And then Pistol Pete Maravich's record is on the line, but of course he only played 3 years, did not have the 3-point goal, and shot every time he touched the ball.
He was a heck of a player, Pistol Pete. I watched.
You're right. We were laughing. Brendan saw Pistol Pete play in the pros probably, and also in
the pros, and then Dad saw him. Dad talked a lot about Pistol Pete. We were talking about it the other day.
Oh my gosh, Brendan, buddy saw this probably interviewed. He's one of the weird interview.
I heard he was a strange bird.
He was just like his dad was one of the craziest coaches. One time they had a game tape and they showed this big fight breaking out. This guy jumps over the top and he's looking and he said, "Hey, that's me jumping into the fight."
I would think interviewing Pistol Pete Maravich would be like that scene in Kingpin when Woody Harrelson's at the bar in Reno at the bowling world championship. He goes, "Who you calling crazy?" You know, he's looking at. All right, William Halliday, before we get off here, what's the big story that you want to write? And by the way, thank you, Maury Gaston, curator of the Museum of Sidelines History, Tradition, and Heroes. You went to the back booth at Chappie's with David Housel and the group down there. That's so cool. That guy, let me talk about being Coach Tough. He will rip you a new one, come up there 5 minutes later, put his arm around you and say, "Hey, I did it because I care." Okay. The best people in life are the ones that will rip you a new one because they care. But what's the big story that you see on the horizon for the 19, 20-year-old? Because our listeners go all the way up to my dad, who's 117, and Methuselah. No, but what's the big story that you are wanting to write right now, but you see happening in college athletics? And do you see any of these student athletes on campus driving around in Lamborghinis or Porsches or ridiculous displays of like wealth versus what the average student is driving, or maybe they're even walking to campus?
Well, all of them are just getting on their scooters and riding to classes and everything.
There you go.
So that's what they're doing nowadays. I don't know if they've got Lamborghinis or whatever, but
diamond encrusted scooter handles is what they are.
Yeah. But a story that I wanted to think about writing, I've heard over the past few days that I didn't know about, was this new pitching technology that college baseball has had, is getting or whatever for their pitchers, and apparently improving their pitching. From what I'm hearing, I'd like to learn more about that. And I looked it up some on the internet, but like, I don't know, apparently there's some like new device that like will help pitchers with like just communicate with their coaches on like what they want to throw or something. I don't know if there's something on that, but I'm hearing a lot of it from the media, from the past few media sessions that I've been going to. I don't know if it's on that specifically or if it's just like stuff within the practice realms of college baseball, but that's
I've heard about it. It teaches them how to get the pine tar on the ball a little bit easier. Yeah. Just how to sneak that in a little easier. So,
wow. Yeah. Weirdest pitcher of all time. Weirdest. Mark the Bird Fidrich. Would he be up there, Bo Carter?
Oh my gosh, yeah. And Bliss already died too soon. He had was in an accident with a trailer, and I think he also remind me. I think did he have leukemia or something? But he was. He'd go out and like talk to the pitching rubber and dust everything off, and take a trowel out there and dig a hole where his foot would land.
Yeah, he was very neurotic, I guess.
He was to say the least. To say the least. But we need some more like him in baseball today. Well, and I tell you what, R.A. Dickey, that you have on the in AHT, great, one of the last great knuckleball pitchers. Man, he reinvented. He got drafted by the Rangers. They found out he was missing a tendon in his elbow, and he had to have major surgery. And came back and I think won over 150 games for the Mets, the Rangers, and several other teams. So always love RA. He's really what he's doing in the community.
Oh, listen, the folks up there. We had Mary Trapnell on from Nashville Anti-Human Trafficking Coalition. We're going to get her back on next week. We had some technical issues when she was on last time, but they're doing great work, and we are blessed to have them as a sponsor. They are true warriors. He's an MBA grad, home of the Gentlemen's Scholars. Absolutely. Hey, look, we've run out of time. In Bo, National Football Foundation, Baseball Writers of America, William Halliday, theauburnplainsman.com. Subscribe to it. And want to say this too, GatorBaitMedia.com. I got to be on that show last night. Golly,
Buddy
man,
Martin
Lauren,
show.
The Buddy Martin show, the Buddy Martin show. But
it's all my shows. It's all my brain. So it's fine. It's
that's the
BrendanMartin.com.
Ben
Check it out.
Troop, Franz Beard, Buddy Martin. Man,
well, I found
cool.
this for William. I just wanted to share with him and see if he recognizes that guy. So I just,
Caglione.
Yeah,
it looks like another white guy to me. That's why I'm saying.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I just didn't know if he recognized. He likes to hit home runs. Yeah,
no.
It's okay.
Yeah. Well, you know what he is, William?
War Eagle,
he's a modern day Tim Hudson.
Okay.
I don't know who Tim Hudson is. I need a list, Rob, at the end. Like, who are all these people that you're referencing?
Well, Tim Hudson played in the majors for about 15 years, won a World Series.
You're way smarter than me.
No, I mean, he was an All-American at Auburn in '97, but you were living out in Boulder at that time.
I never lived in Boulder. You keep telling me that I lived in Boulder, dude. I know it's Friday, man. You know what? It's 5 o'clock somewhere. Can we end the show? Can we end the show, Rob?
Well, Mr.
60
Spicoli
minutes
was
long, Rob.
Yeah. All right, we did go a little bit long today. Sorry about that. But look, all of you all, our guests, everybody, get out to Hewlett and Dunn Boot and Clothing Company on the historic square in Collierville. Check out the Vitamin Shop, 5338 Goodman Road, Olive Branch, Mississippi. A new one is opening up now in Oxford, Mississippi. Justin Ross, great work they're doing down there. The Vitamin Shop, Oxford and Olive Branch. Be a supporter of all of our sponsors. You can find them all on the website, man. Hey, God bless you. We're out of here. We'll see you tomorrow. Have a good one.
Tomorrow.
Sidelines with Rob